Virtually every Air Force base in the country and every National Guard air base now has some component of drone operations in it, whether it's training people, mechanics or intelligence analysts, or training drone operators themselves. Virtually every air base has someone. In fact, in Honolulu, the Hickam Air Force Base was one of 3 bases that in November of last year was identified as yet one more of the air bases that's probably going to be getting some sort of command and control operations over drones. Because it really doesn't matter where in the world you are, the communication systems, the satellite systems, allow drones halfway around the world to be operated from the United States, whether it's continental United States or here in Hawaii. It's certainly a shorter distance for drones that will probably be operated in the Asian area, in the Pacific area. And then if you look at what's happening here in the United States with the civilian aspect of drones, where we have now the Congress has mandated that the FAA by the year 2016 has to open up airspace, commercial airspace, for at least 30,000 drones to be flying in commercial airspace. And drones right now are primarily military and CIA drones, where you have operators that have some training, but not nearly the level of training that fixed-wing pilots have to have in order to bring military aircraft into commercial airspace. So commercial air pilots are saying, you know, what's going on here? We don't want to have drones, some of which may be as big as their own aircraft, up here with some yahoo down on the ground that's using a computer, a joystick to maneuver these things. And what if all the power goes off? What if this happens? What if that happens? There are really lots of concerns about what the Congress is telling the FAA it has to do. And those concerns, reflected back, the reason that this is happening is because of the huge industry that drone manufacturing is now. It's a huge business in the United States with over 475 companies that are in the drone business. The U.S. is now exporting drones. We just sold $1 billion worth of drones to NATO. Israel is also involved in drones. They use drones every single day in Gaza. There are drones that are flying 24 hours a day above Gaza. I've been to Gaza 4 times in the last 3 years, and the hum that you hear, and the attacks that come from those drones at any second. And of course, from the Israelis, they say, well, militants are firing rockets into Israel, which is true, and I don't agree with that at all. But the use of the drones at any second, just to the reign of terror that these have over the people of Gaza, of the people of Afghanistan, the people of Pakistan, the people of Yemen, the people of Somalia, who never know when, whoosh, boom, and your family's gone. Well, the FAA has been mandated by Congress to open up 5 areas of U.S. airspace over sparsely populated areas. Primarily, it looks like it'll be in national forest areas, probably in the Adirondacks, maybe the Ozark region, maybe an area down in the southeastern part of the United States, certainly some on the West Coast. And airline pilots are rightfully concerned that putting even more aircraft, and particularly aircraft that doesn't even have a human sitting in them, that has only a connection by electronic means, that could possibly fail. Certainly the military is the biggest commercial market for drones. But then you have what people anticipate will be a remarkable increase from virtually 0 being used in law enforcement right now to God knows how many. Since some types of drones cost less than a law enforcement patrol car, you can see that probably every law enforcement agency in the country, whether it's the towns, small towns, and if we spend $50,000 on a police car, why don't we just get a little drone? Well, let's just see how we can operate that in our little town, much less the big cities. And big cities where there are protests that are going on, and for those of us that are challenging social systems and social justice, where we use protests, demonstrations to be a visible form of our outrage of what's going on. The potential for these drones to be used to certainly surveil what's going on, and then potentially to be used as mechanisms for tasering people, for firing tear gas. We know that at least one type of drone right now that's being considered by the Houston Police Department has the capability of having tasers attached to it and tear gas canisters that can be fired from those drones into whatever they want. We have drones that are now being used on the borders of the United States, on the southern border, to identify migrants that are trying to cross the border, drug people that are trying to cross the border, and there are drones that are being used on the Canadian border too. April 28th and 29th, we have the first international conference on drones, where we'll be bringing in people from all over the world, to include a Pakistani lawyer. We hope we'll be able to get a U.S. visa. So far, the U.S. does not want this lawyer who represents the families of victims of U.S. drone attacks. They don't want him coming to the United States to tell the stories of these families, of the indiscriminate killing of civilians by these drones. And then in May, we have in Chicago the demonstrations against NATO and the expansion of NATO and the types of operations that NATO has been conducting for the United States, essentially. NATO doesn't do anything unless the U.S. wants it done. To, stir the pot up in your community here and get the local paper to have to cover something like that and start the dialogue. That's what it's really all about, and taking the initiative as you are here to do that. And it will get, the resonance of it as you put it on blogs, as you talk about it, as you get newspaper articles. It's not like that you have to have all the ducks in order on this thing. It's good, if the more organization you can get with it, the more things that you can just hand to them that essentially they have to acknowledge it. But even if it's not that far along, go ahead and do it. To say, every time you come back here, I'm going to be after you guys. You're our congressional representatives, for God's sakes, and you voted for this thing. Despite every senior person in our government, the agency heads, the Department of Defense, CIA, Homeland Security, Justice Department. It was amazing the number of our own government officials that said, this is crazy, we don't want this. Well, I was in the military 29 years and then a U.S. diplomat for 16 years, and after I resigned from the diplomatic corps, I'm pretty well on the path of dedicating the rest of my life to challenging government policies, of working for a better life for all, for social justice issues that really affect us all. And it's the least I can do. For all of us, this is our life, this is our planet, and to do what we can for other people and to protect this little tiny speck that we live on.